Hey guys, it's Brooke here, and I'm back with what I hope is only going to be part three of the series of what I wish I knew when joining a farmer's market. So I had a plan for coming into this last uh, part of the video, and then I've changed it because I was participating in a live that Catherine from Catherine Garden and Friends has, and she was saying that she was watching the videos, and a couple of people who participated, they're one of the viewers and followers of her channel, were saying that they were thinking about doing some farmers markets. I think they may have been thinking about doing it this fall, and so I wanted to include some practical tips because I know it seems like I know at least there's some people who are looking to do this sooner rather than later. So I'm going to give like actual concrete, like specific tips rather than the more general ones that I planned. So if there's somebody out there who's thinking that I've got excess produce, I'd like to do a farmer's market this year, I would tell you don't do that. I would say wait until next year. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, and the biggest one, is that you're probably too late. Most farmers markets, their applications are due like from the beginning of January to March. So their applications close, they've already gotten their roster. Usually they're pulling from the roster they already have. So they already have their main people. They probably have backups and backups for those backups. And so the chances of you applying and getting in are pretty slim. The other thing is that there are a number of business things and potentially legal things you got to get straightened out before now. And, it costs to be part of a farmer's market. And I'm not just talking about, your booth. There's other business costs. So if you've never done one before, you may not, maybe it's in your budget, maybe it's not, but I'm going to talk about some of those additional costs because, you're going to, well, we'll get into it. But before I get into the business nitty gritty, because some of this is going to be determined by more practical aspects of it. So the first thing I would say is that number one, keep in mind, Instagram is different than reality. And I don't mean strictly Instagram, I mean social media. There may be some of you guys who have homesteading channels, you have a large following, and people are very encouraging, and you're thinking, okay, you know what, I can do this and this will be really good. Once again, social media is not a representative of reality. First off, even though you may have a lot of followers on YouTube or whatever social media platform, and I understand that if you were to invite the number of subscribers you had to your property, that would be a lot. But most of the time with social media and that sort of thing, your subscribers and followers are usually spread across the country. It's not necessarily, for example, like if I had 800 subscribers, like, and they were all in my town, yeah, it would I would be that would be phenomenal because my business probably would have really taken off, but it's not. My 800 subscribers are spread across the U.S. and there are some foreign countries that I have subscribers in, and I think most people are like that too. And so when I think about 800 compared to the population of America, it's really not. It's really not that many people. And the other thing you have to understand is that social media sometimes can be an echo chamber. With gardening, which is what I'm into. There are people. I have over 1,000 followers on Instagram. People they're really into plants like I am, but the average person is not into it like that. And so yes, if those people who were on Instagram were local to me and I had launched a business, once again, that would have been different because they would have appreciated the fact that I had rare and unusual plants where the majority of people that you're going to be selling to don't they're not obsessed with it the way you are. And so you're going to get a different reaction. So just keep that in mind, and just kind of temper your expectations. The other thing, practically speaking, is visit the markets now. Visit more than once. Like, for example, the market number one for me goes through, I think it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. I would be visiting, I'm going to visit in September, October, and November, because I want to see what the crowds are like. And especially if you're going to be doing, produce and that sort of thing, definitely see what the crowds are like. And because you want to see, do things slow down at a certain point in time? Is it really heavy, throughout up to the end of the season, or what? The other thing is, talk to the market manager if possible. Now, just keep in mind, the market is making money even if you're not, because they're charging, they're getting paid for the booths. And for them, all they want to know is that they're getting a lot of foot traffic. Although they want their vendors to make money, that's not their primary concentration, and they're not going to be paying attention to which categories of vendors, like how they do and when, like how they do it, whether or not somebody does better at the beginning of the season and the season. That's not something they're going to know. They're just going to know, oh yeah, we get a lot of foot traffic. Okay. Also talk to the vendors if possible. Obviously, if you're a farmer, you're going to want to talk to some of the other farmers, but also talk to some of the other vendors that are there, because the thing is, even if a farmer, because the farming booths, from my experience and my observation, tend to be super busy, so you may not be able to talk to them. But the thing is, some of the other vendors don't necessarily have that amount of traffic, and because when you don't have a lot of traffic, you just kind of sit around watching what other people are doing. They probably have some really good observations that they can tell you. But the thing you want to find out about is, what's the ebb and flow of the market throughout the season. Is it, basically, are you only getting really spring and fall, and summer not so much? That's just something that you need to find out. The other thing is that if you're doing produce, is see what's being offered. Okay, because I think I mentioned in another video, one thing about farmers markets, they do not want any overlap over the product. With products, because if everybody's carrying the same thing, then at the end of the day, the only way to sell is to have your prices so cheap that it's not benefiting you financially. So look at what you have that you're ready to produce, and see if they're already offering it. Because if right now you have the exact same stuff, even if you were to apply, they're going to tell you, oh, we already have people who are doing that. And this is why I said wait until next year, because that way you can adjust to what you're growing. So you really need to offer something different. You don't want, yes, sometimes there may be a little bit of overlap, but by and large, you want to make sure that there's very little, if any, overlap, so that you're not hurting anybody else and they're not hurting you. I know a lot of you guys have probably watched that one channel, Roots and Refuge, with Jess. When they sold their last property, I forgot the girl they sold it to, and I can't remember her name, but I do know she did a lot of farmers markets, and she did plant starts. And I remember she was saying that the farmers in that area all kind of worked together, and so when there was going to be a farmers market, they kind of actually sent out lists of what they were growing, so that everybody kind of could see what everybody was bringing, so that they could grow other stuff, so that nobody was competing. And see if that's around, and definitely do it. The one thing I would say about farmers market is, because farmers markets are really local, I would go for something that doesn't have much of a shelf life. So for example, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a pawpaw tree. The reason you don't see pawpaw fruit in the stores is because it has zero shelf life. It's like when you pick it, it's got to be eaten in 2 days. Even if you were to go to a local grocery store, it's not enough time to make it there. So there is this one guy that's in Chesterfield, New Jersey, who has pawpaws, and so in the fall, he brings pawpaws. Okay, I do have a pawpaw tree, not doing too well. we won't talk about that. We don't talk about Bruno. But aside from that, or unless you have like a friend, like I have a friend Steve who has a lot of pawpaws, and I'm gonna be hitting him up this year because he was supposed to have given me some last year and forgot about it. But unless you have a local farmer who's taking it to the market, or you have a friend, or you have your own pawpaw trees, that is something that aside from that you will never taste. Okay, so if you have that, that's the perfect thing for a farmer's market. So I would just say go for something that people for whatever reason can't get at the supermarket. So that's just my personal opinion of what I think farmers should do. Did I get through all my practical stuff? Yeah, I think I did. I was like planning to be. Yeah, I actually got to the end of it. I thought I was going to spend a longer time, doing that. Also, make sure you have a nice booth. See how everybody sets up their booths. I'm trying to think. The other thing is that if possible, I would start trying to get kind of promoting yourself now for next year. So like, for example, I know one of the people who said they were interested in doing farmers markets homesteads, and they do a lot of canning. Now, teaching a class on canning, that's going to involve some of the business and legal nitty gritty we're going to get into. But that's the type of thing, like, I would do some videos, for Facebook or YouTube and actually pay, like, Facebook is better than it with this aspect than YouTube. But like with Facebook, if you do a video, like a canning video or something, if you pay for advertisement, you can specify the geographic area. And for a farmer's market, you can make it super local. Like you can set it like however many miles from your house. So that would be a good thing to kind of get your reputation, kind of get people to start liking your page, so that when you start making announcements in terms of what you have, those people will be ready. You'll kind of, have a market. Maybe, do like an online, like for example, like on YouTube, I know you can do a live, but it's a live that's private. So basically people can only do it if they have a link. That may be one of those types of things you want to, do an online like webinar type thing, charge money and have like a private link so that only the people who are paying, for the class are getting it. And once again, that'll kind of get you out there, kind of start establishing a reputation as a little bit of an authority, because when you go to a farmer's market, people are going to ask you a lot of questions, and because you grew it, they're going to expect you to know. So I'm just letting you know. So there's that. So like now with the business nitty gritty. So one thing you may want to do, and this is something you should discuss with an accountant, a tax lawyer, a business organization attorney. You may want to see if you need to create a business entity. And I'm talking about things like LLC or sole proprietorships or S corps or that sort of thing. I personally did an LLC because I know where it is that I want to go. And for me, I thought that worked best, but that may not work for you. All I'm saying is talk to somebody. You may want to do that. Okay. Number 2, check your state's tax department. Okay. Because yes, with farming, there's certain things that most states don't tax. There are, depending upon what you're offering, you may be required by your state to collect sales tax. So for example, like if you have like a goat farm and you have goat's milk and you're doing like goat milk products, like, soaps and that sort of thing, that might be something in your state that you would have to create sales tax. And so you're going to have to get a tax agent certificate from your state. And so that's a logistic thing that you're going to have to do. So just check that, because the last thing you want is to get in trouble with the tax man. Because you can't get rid of those obligations at all, and the fines are pretty steep. So just check on it. Like I have to collect sales tax, and so I have to remit it, because I don't collect that much sales tax, but I have to remit it every quarter, but depending upon how well you do, you may have to do it on a monthly basis. It just all depends. So that's something you should look into. The other thing you want to check is that you might want to check with the health department. I know for some people who own farms, like they want to use, produce to make jams and jellies or, candies or pickles or that sort of thing. Talk to your health department. There may be a permit that you're required to get, if you're going to be offering eggs or, for example, like, slaughtering meat. Once again, check with the health department, but also check with the Department of Agriculture because they may have some permitting requirements. In my case, because I'm selling plants, I had to get a nursery license from my state. So, even if you're a farmer, and because some of the local farms who come here are selling plant starts, you got to get licensed for that. So I'm just saying, you got to check into it. And, to get licensed, they're probably going to have to do some sort of inspection. So it's not one of those things that you can necessarily get done in a couple of weeks. A lot of times I know in my state, they inspect by the fall for the following year. This year, they made an exception for me, especially because I got bad information from the state because the state told me to wait until March, whereas I really should have done it in August of last year. So that's just something to, keep in mind, because once again, it's one of those things you're not going to find out until you start doing it. And some states, it's easy to find the information. My state, very difficult to get the information. So go ahead and start early. The other thing is that depending upon where the farmer's market it is and what state you're in, some towns may require you to have a business license to work at the at the farmer's market, especially depending upon what type of products you're offering. So definitely look into that because that's going to be paperwork and that sort of thing. The other thing is insurance. Some farmers markets do require insurance. It varies from market to market, and also it varies from depending upon what type of vendor you are. One of the markets that I'm in, you have to have insurance. It doesn't matter what type of vendor you are, you have to have insurance. One of the other markets that I'm part of, you only have to have liability insurance if you're selling something that's edible or something that you applied like topically to the skin. Because I don't do anything like that, I'm not required to have it for that one market, but but because the other market required it, I went ahead and got the liability insurance anyway. That's one of those things you're going to have to talk to an insurance agent. I can tell you in New Jersey, I'm required to have a liability policy of $1 million. When I looked at all of the requirements for all of the markets, that was kind of standard, was that if you needed it, you're going to have that amount. And it's probably going to be similar in all the states. So that's just something to keep in mind that you're probably going to have to do. The other thing is whether or not people are going to be working for you. If it's going to be like, you and your spouse or you and your kids, you're probably fine. Talk to an insurance person. But like, for example, if like I actually hired a person who's not related to me to actually help me at the market sometimes. And so because of that, my state requires, and most states do, I'm pretty sure all states do, require that you have to have workers' compensation insurance. And so once again, I went to my insurance agent and got that. I also have Square to do as my register, and so they actually have workers' comp that you can get through them as well. But once again, that's just something to look at. So like I said, there's a lot of nitty gritty things, some things that maybe you didn't think about, but that's why I'm recommending that you wait a year, because getting these things together may take some months to do, and in that case you probably will have missed the market anyway. But that's just kind of how it is. So I feel like there was one other. Oh, I remember. EBT. So some farmers markets do offer EBT. That's EBT is a service that people, like, for example, if you're under, I think in most states it's called SNAP, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. What used to be known as food stamps, except, they don't have stamps anymore. Everybody gets like a debit card type thing. Some markets do require you to take EBT. Now, some markets, the way they're set up is that if you have EBT card, you go to them. I forgot how they do it, and they kind of essentially give you cash to go to the vendors. But there are some markets that require you as a vendor to actually accept EBT if you're selling qualifying products. So basically, food and even plant starch, because that was one of the reasons I didn't have plant starch this year. I can't remember which market I went to, but the requirement is that if I offered that sort of thing, I had to take EBT. And Square itself doesn't take EBT. I think I have found a plugin that I can use that I could accept it, but that's something you're going to want to check into because that may be the requirement of the market. As I said in my first video, attending a market and being a vendor are two totally different things, and this is exactly what I meant, because there's all the stuff that you don't ever think about when you're visiting. So things that I would have done differently if I had to do it all again, over again. Number one, I would have visited a lot more markets, and I think I probably would have applied to a wider variety of markets. I don't know. I think I may have done it maybe every other week instead of every other week. I think I may have taken the month of July off, because July, July was really rough with the temperatures. The other thing is that a lot of, it slows down in terms of people buying. The other thing, I definitely would have done some courses or reached out to some like garden clubs to see if I could have done some lectures this past winter to kind of, help drum up business. The one thing is, I knew this year was going to be a learning year. It's just that for me, I had a really good start. And I think because I had such a good start, it set my expectations a lot higher than they would have been if it had, a more, like, if I had had the start that I had, like, basically the way I've been doing in July, if I had had that start to begin with, I think I would have been a lot, I don't know, it would have been different. I think I would have had more realistic expectations, but because I started so strong at the beginning of the season, and so I anticipated, okay, well, this is what I'm doing now, and the season hasn't even, because in New Jersey, there's a certain point in time that people start buying. I hadn't even gotten to that point yet. So I was like, okay, well, if this is how I'm starting now, and we haven't even gotten to their actual garden season, holy cow, this is going to be crazy when I get there. So I would say definitely whatever your expectations are, lower them. The other thing is, don't win, the battle to lose the war. Probably if I had been a lot busier, I don't think I would have had no reason to change my business the way I was doing things, because I was like, okay, this is working. This is forcing me to change. There are certain things I'm going to do differently for next year, even down to like containers. The other thing is that because certain times were so slow, and I just wasn't having like hardly any sales whatsoever. It gave me time to talk to people, because there were people who were coming into my booth who weren't buying. And so I would kind of throw out there, oh, was there something you're looking for? I saw you noticed you were looking at this. And that is how I realized how many people were just like, I love plants. I think they're pretty. I love looking at them. I can't grow them. And so then that's kind of what made me go, oh, you know what? I should do some gardening classes. And so now when people say that, perfect opening, hey, I'm going to do some gardening classes. You want to sign? Would you like to get on my list? And so I have picked up a lot of customers. Some of these customers haven't bought anything. They are waiting because they want to take the gardening class. And so I think I'm hoping once I do that, especially because the thing is, I can understand people not wanting to buy plants if they think they're going to kill them. I totally get that because it's a waste of money. But I'm hoping that once we do the classes, they'll have, the confidence and know how so that, they will buy things because they're like, well, now I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and why everything I was doing, what I was doing was going so wrong. Um, I mean, I think doing every other week would have given me, given me a little bit of downtime to get other things done because right now, like, I'm dying here because I haven't been taking care of my own yard as much. And so, now I've got a huge mess. Like, the weeds are absolutely out of control. So, you know, um, I would have had a little bit more time and that sort of thing. And I think it's important because basically I've been going essentially, I work Monday through Friday and then I've been working on Saturday. So I've been very, very tired this year. So next year, I'm going to definitely adjust, like I said, what I'm doing. So, during the month of the July, I think I'm going to offer some classes for things to do for fall and maybe do them every other week. And, first off, it'll be inside, so it'll be cooler. I will have some plants available for sale, like indoors, but it won't be, I'm standing outside in the, burning weather. So I'm thinking, July, probably taking a break and potentially part of August to take a break just so that or even with August, if I just go down to two times a month, just to kind of give myself, a break and kind of space it out. In terms of plants that I'm offering, it definitely, I'm definitely going to be offering a lot more perennials next year because that was a big thing. I'm definitely gonna look into, I think I actually have a list of some things of some plants that are shade because that was another request. There's a lot of people who have shade. And what's the other thing? It was really perennials and shade. I'm definitely this year, although I liked the color scheme that I have, I think in future I definitely need to have, I think wine and chocolate, the colors, although they worked well, the colors were very similar. And I think, especially like with things like the peonies, because the peonies, the colors, I'm sure in reality, in people's yards, the colors are going to look very different. But especially with the pictures, it kind of all looked the same. And, obviously I had earlier in mid-season and late season blooms, but for some people, they weren't really picking up on that. It was just, oh, this is how the picture looks. Next year, my colors, I'm gonna have more differences in the colors, and so I think that will speak to people. The other thing is some of the especially with the peonies, the way the peonies themselves look, they're gonna look dramatically different from what's available, and so I think that'll get people more attention from people. So it's just little things like that. I was just realizing that for a lot of people, things have to look kind of distinct in order to get their attention. Another thing is that people really liked colored sunflower, and they liked the idea of multi-branching sunflower. So some of the ones I'm going to offer next year aren't multi-branching, but I think they're going to look different enough that people are going to want to buy them anyway. But one of the ones I have is definitely multi-branching, and I kind of know, okay, with the ones that are single, I'm going to do fewer of those, but the ones that are multi-branching do a lot more of those because those just kind of like, those went like wildflower. The other thing is ranunculus. People like them, and especially next year, I'm going to be offering some butterfly ranunculus. So those are going to be a little bit more pricey. But that was a popular seller too. Yeah, I noticed the people at the market number one, they liked unusual. If they saw they saw something unusual, like it was like they were all drawn to like, oh my goodness, what is that? So yeah, so there's that. And then next year, I'm going to be offering all of the plants in bigger containers. So everything is going to be in a gallon size container. As a matter of fact, I have a container and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Ta-da! So, yes, actually, let me turn the light off because I think this light is kind of washing it out. Oh, actually, this light's not good in here. You'll see them in other videos, but that is the container that I'm using. I'm gonna have, I slightly modified my logo because I finally, there's this one program for Mac that it has like a photo editor and some other stuff. Great, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I can't believe I waited so long to get it. But they had a 50% off sale and they bundled it, so I bought it. So the logo that I had, the way a reason it looks that way is because I didn't have the program, and so I had to use their like PNG file. But because now I have the program, I can use the high quality image. So actually, if you look at the Vintage Gardener logo, it actually has a lot of detail, but you probably can't see it because, you know, the logos on the thing are kind of small. But I have much more detailed logo. I'm going to be doing it in white. And so I can't do those labels myself because most printers don't print white. So I'm sampling this one sticker, but Avery has clear labels, and I think I should be able to do they should be able to print white. And so, because I want, like, you know, I think the white will really pop, you know, my logo in white was going to really pop. So everything's going to be in gallon size containers. With the annuals, I will probably be putting like 4 seedlings in each. The reason I'm going with the bigger container is because with the heat, keeping those other containers watered was absolutely impossible to do. This has a much bigger reservoir. I'm also looking into some stuff from Drip Depot because so that way I can put little like gallon size drippers in each one of these things. So it's, you know, things, you know, I'm going to change things as they go. You know, I was thinking, because especially how I was moving things, I was thinking that I was going to be moving plants more quickly than what I did. And so what ends up happening is that they were sitting. But I think, you know, yeah, in gallon size containers, yeah, are they going to be more expensive? Yes, but they're also going to be a much bigger plant, which I think people will be fine with, because I did have some like Euro pots with like 3 or 4 plants in them, and people really liked it because of how big it was. So that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, guys, that is it for this series. I may come back at some point in time with some additional things that I'm changing, but that for right now is that's it. So yeah, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Even if you don't have any questions, can you guys just leave a comment? It's just like, when I don't see any comments, I'm just like, okay, did you like it? Did you hate it? Like, there has to be some question. I mean, I don't consider this to be like, you know, it's not like an I'm not doing this exhaustively. So I'm just like, somebody should have some questions. There's something you must have a question about. But if not, just leave me a comment. Even if you say thanks, Brooke, or a thumbs up, something, so I know you guys are out there. I'm not just talking into the void. So anyway, guys, I do have some gardening videos, and I'm going to try to start doing this, especially now that because once I get past August, like, I slow down in terms of markets, and then I should have, you know, I'll be catching up on videos. I don't have that many because I haven't been making them, but I do have some. You know, I did visit a lot of gardens, so we'll be doing that because that's always fun. So anyway, guys, I will see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.